Hello, everyone, and welcome to day three. Day three is where, in my mind, everything really kind of starts to come together. I'm going to teach you guys what I call the predictable profit formula. And these are basically like the four numbers that you want to track in your business, that you want to be aware of in your business, because um, when you're paying attention to these numbers, they tell you the health of your business. They tell you what's working, what's not working, what should be tweaked. And even if you're someone who doesn't love poring over data, these numbers are pretty easy to kind of manage, to keep track of, to stay on top of. And I think that is the key. So let me share the worksheet with you guys here. And you guys can make a copy of it. I'm gonna pop it in the chat. There we go. And these numbers really help you kind of determine the health of your business. So let me do a screen share here. And they relate to the three-stage business model as well. But the first one is related to stage one, which is how many leads do you have per month? Which I guess technically is actually more related to stage two because you require someone to have made a decision point to become a lead. They had to have either attended a workshop of yours. They could have downloaded one of your opt-ins. They could have booked a call with you. They could have attended an event, but they had to have engaged with you in some way, shape, or form. So to me, I wouldn't really consider someone a lead if they were just like commenting on my social media. I mean, it's still a lead in the fact that you can take action on that 100%, but it becomes a lead if we start like a DM conversation, right? So if they comment on my post and then I message them in the DMs and that we have a conversation back and forth, now I would count it as a lead because now I actually have something that I can either invite them into, coach them on a next step, that kind of thing. So really when I'm looking at leads, I'm looking at, what some people in sales might call like conversation openers. So like if you're having a back and forth dialogue with someone, this is where some people talk about having their sales conversations in the DMs. It's basically like you have a conversation in the DMs that you would have with someone on a call. And either one's fine, right? You can count either one. If you submit a pitch or a proposal, or if you deliver a workshop, those are kind of the top sort of ways you would count leads in your business. And I like to track those every single week and month. I count them up. So, like, if I'm doing a sales call with someone or a discovery call with someone, I have a spreadsheet. I write their name down in the spreadsheet. I write down what we talked about and the date we had that conversation. And if I do follow-ups with them, then I'll keep adding that into the spreadsheet so that I can start to see, like, when I've had a conversation with someone, how long does it take them to buy? When someone's attended trainings of mine, how long does it take them to buy, right? And just starting to kind of get a sense of to like sort of the health of my customer journey starts by tracking how many leads I even have in the first place. You won't get a client without a lead, right? So kind of getting a sense as to where you're at with that. Does anyone have any questions about that data point, the number of leads you have? You can separate them out into categories, which isn't a bad idea. Like for me, I would probably like to know two key things. Did they attend a training, like this type of training where it was like a workshop or a master class, or did we have a one-on-one call? Those would be sort of the two pieces of information I'd want. I'd want to know the numbers in each because conversion rates are different, right? If someone has a call with you versus if someone attends a workshop, your conversion rates will be different. Then the next piece of information you want to track is the number of closed deals. So this is basically like the clients that book with you. Okay. And you're going to have different kinds. You're going to have clients who are like, I want to book, ongoing coaching with you. I want to sign up for your ongoing training. I want this, I want that, or one-off sessions. And either one's fine. But, just getting a sense as to how many closed deals or how many like closed clients, how many book deals did you get? And it counts as a closed deal if there was like a financial transaction involved, if someone paid you, even if it's a small amount, right? Someone paid you $27 for something, that counts. That's a closed deal. And then the next one is revenue. And I think this one's like pretty obvious. We want to know how much money we make every month. Like that's a pretty straightforward thing, but it's actually really surprising how many of us just like rely on our brains and we like to just think to ourselves, well, I kind of know how many sales I have had because I know it's in my bank account or I get the sales notification on my phone or whatever. But our brains are liars. Have you guys ever noticed that? Our brains are liars. Like, have you ever felt like the health of my bank account is often dependent on my mood? Does anyone else notice that? Like if I'm in a good mood where I'm like, oh, like everything's good, like I feel great. I'm like, yeah, I've got money, everything's good. Whereas if I'm like struggling or stressed out, I'm like, oh, I feel terrible. I don't have any money. It's like the dollar figure doesn't matter, but yet my emotions will judge it good or bad. And that's exhausting and not helpful. So I think it's really good if you can actually track your revenue. Either do a running total every Friday or on the last day of the month, add up all the money that's been transferred into your accounts. Like there's a couple ways you can do it. I like to just kind of look at what's been transferred into my business bank account. It's like I know I got paid if it lands in my business bank account. I mean, obviously you can look at your bookkeeping as well, but I find most people's bookkeeping is probably a month or two behind, maybe even 3 months behind. Like especially if you're a small business, you might not do your bookkeeping, like you would only do it once a quarter, right? Which is fine, but you still want to know what's my revenue total, right? Because you want to know the efforts I'm doing, how is that manifesting? Now, revenue is a lagging indicator, I would call that. And so when I say lagging indicator, it's like when you see a dollar land in the bank account, there was stuff happening for months leading up to that, right? When the dollar lands in your bank account, that is out of your control at this point. What's in your control is the stuff that happened, weeks before, a month before, several months before. That's when you were doing your stage one and your stage two. So revenue, I had a discovery call with someone just before this actually, and they were telling me that they get paid out for the work they do 3 months later. So, the money that's in their bank account from January is from the work they did in the fall. And it's good to know that because you could start thinking to yourself, oh, like this is great. I have money in the bank, and then not realizing that by taking your foot off the gas, you're actually setting yourself up to maybe not have as much money in the bank in 3 months' time, which is not where you want to be. And so this is where using your three-stage model, being very aware of, can I switch screens? Can you guys see the spreadsheet now? Okay, good. Being very aware of like, what are my stage ones and what are my stage twos? Because the money landing in the bank account is associated with the stage three. And that's like literally the last step. And it's so funny because obviously, as a service provider or a practitioner, being good at what we do is key and critical and important. That, goes without saying. But like being good at what you do isn't necessarily what got you the sale. I mean, it's what you're building your business upon. But what got you the sale is, did you have stuff happening in stage one and two? Right. And this is where, kind of one of the myths we talked about on day one was like, sometimes we have this feeling of like, if I'm just really good at my craft, if I'm just really good at X, Y, and Z, clients will come. Right. And it's not true. It's not true. You can be great at what you do and have a lack of clients, and you can be terrible at what you do and have an abundance of clients. Those don't necessarily equal each other. What does fall within your control is, am I taking actions every week in stage one and every week to every month in stage two, which will generate the sales at the stage three? Do you guys see how this is all starting to kind of come together? Is anybody lost, stuck, confused, uncertain based on anything I'm saying yet? Okay, so then the next piece that I like to look at is this formula, which is earnings per lead. This is not the same as earnings per client. It's a little bit different. Okay. It's total revenue, which is like your sales total, divided by the total number of leads. Remember, not all of your leads are going to buy. Okay. A percentage of your leads will buy. Your conversion rate might be, which is like percentage of leads that buy, might be anywhere from 2% to 50%, depending on your sales cycle and your business model and all of it. So it might be 2%, it might be 50%. But knowing, if I know what my earnings per lead is, then I can do the math very quickly. It's like if my earnings per lead are, I don't know, like what's an earnings per lead ratio? Like I don't know. Let's say if it's a higher ticket offer where you do more one-on-one conversations, like discovery calls, maybe it's $1,000. If it's a lower ticket offer, it could be anywhere between like $50 to like $200. But if I know that, if I know, let's just say my earnings per lead is $500. If I know that and I know I want to hit a 10K goal, then I have to have 20 leads. If I don't have 20 leads, I'm not going to hit that 20K goal. And it starts to give me more honest, like control or influence in my process. Does that make sense? So this is what I think is really important to look at, especially if you're going to start doing things like a launch event. So a launch event is like a masterclass, a challenge, a workshop, something like that, where, when people are like, how many people signed up for your masterclass? You cannot judge that as a good or bad number unless you know earnings per lead. Once you know earnings per lead, you can decide if that's quote unquote good or bad because now you've got a dollar figure to attach it to. If you had 1 million people sign up for your masterclass, but you had $0 per lead, who cares? If you had 5 people sign up to your masterclass, but you have $1,000 per lead, that's amazing, right? So it gives you like a more helpful metric than just like volume. Because I don't know about you guys, but for me, if we just look at like volume, it can feel daunting. It can feel really daunting to figure out like, okay, well, like I was on a master class the other day and it was like a breathwork master class by a woman who she runs an incredible business and I have a lot of respect for her. She had, I think, 500 attendees on her call. And I was like, holy moly, how in the world do you have 500 people on a Zoom call? Like, that's wild. There's people who do that. But it's like, you know, for me in my business, if I look at that number and get intimidated by it and like freeze up, slam on the brakes, or panic because I've never had 500 people on a call before, I think not even 500 people register for a call. I mean, if she had 500 live, she probably had like 2,000 register, right? Or more. I'm like, oh, like I think the highest enrollment I've ever had in a master class was like, I don't know, 350 or something. And I was blown away at that. I was like, that's amazing, right? But I still didn't have more than 100 live on the call, which is still, in my mind, wild. But knowing what your numbers are makes it so much easier to kind of make those assessments, if that makes sense. You guys with me on this? And I did include the formula for conversion rate. If you aren't sure what I'm talking about when conversion rates, it's basically like the number of leads you have that close, like a closed deal. So if I have, say for private, like a discovery call, like a sales call consultation, it's like for every 2 conversations I have, I get 1 client. That's a 50% conversion rate. Or let's say if I have 100 people sign up for a workshop and 5 of them become paying clients, that's a 5% conversion rate. So that's kind of how you look at your conversion rate. So these are basically the 4 numbers that I recommend you track and you look at on a at least monthly basis, depending on how busy you are in your business. If you're doing a lot of lead gen every week, you might want to even look at this every Friday. To me, it makes sense to look at it either at the end of every month or at the end of a sales cycle. So like, for example, it's basically month end tomorrow, right? I'm not gonna necessarily have all the data from this sales cycle yet. It's gonna come mid-February. So I'll track what I have tracked, but then I'll update it come mid-February because that's kind of when that cycle will complete. Does that make sense? Anyone have any questions about this? Does anybody currently track this as it is? or want to or daunted by it? Like where I feel like I need a little temperature check to see where you guys are at with my does anyone else like numbers or are you daunted by numbers? Maybe. Think about it. But this is where the more you start to pay attention to this, the more you can start to actually dial in each of your stages. So, for example, with the guy I was talking to this morning on the sales call, we were talking about building community. And, when I asked him what his three were, this is stage one. And I told you guys yesterday that I recommend everyone has three. He has a very strong referral system in place. So he's like, I don't know if I should diversify and get a couple of more lead gens or if I should just stick with what works. And we talked about the pros and the cons of each, but we actually ended up deciding he should probably bring in guest teaching or workshops or some kind of like live event type stuff, right? With some kind of like education component into his business. So then he would have two. He didn't want to do social media, and he currently does some email marketing, but it's all in relation to his referrals. So it's like, okay, well, if you've got that strategy, obviously he feels like 10 out of 10 on that because his entire business is growing on that. So I'm like, if it's working, like, don't break what's not working. But let's say, like, let's look at my business, for example. I have this masterclass as one of my stage two offers, but I also had the planning workshop that I did at the beginning of January. So that would be two different stage two offers. So I can look at the conversions of both of them separately. And then I can decide, like, oh, if the conversion's higher in one versus the other, maybe I want to put more time and energy and resources into the one with the higher conversion because it's actually the one that's helping me build long-term client relationships. And there's a lot of factors to this because things change over time. And on your enjoyment and passion behind what you're delivering also, totally matters. But I think, like I also had a lot of success with proposals in the fall. And if I hadn't have been paying attention and tracking that and hadn't realized that, it might not have been something that I wanted to keep working on if I didn't really realize it. And I think also you can evaluate it from the perspective of like, do you enjoy it? So I ran some AI training last year. And even though in terms of like the results, like the conversion, the revenue, and the client testimonials were great. I felt myself being like, is this a space I want to occupy? And so I still haven't reran it. And I don't know if I will because I haven't felt like as much like excitement within that as I have in some of my other offers. So I'm like, okay, like go where the excitement is. Um, so yeah, in this section right here, I really want you guys to look at like what are my stage ones? Ideally, you have three. And I want you to rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of like, are these working for me or not? Like one being not working at all, 10 out of 10 being like, these are working perfectly, attracting clients, love it. Okay. So I just gave some example. Opt-ins, networking, referrals, cross promotion, affiliate, joint ventures, that kind of thing. So give you guys a second to write down what you have going on and rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. And this is where I think, like, if you've done some planning around your year or done my planning workshop, stage two, assessing becomes helpful. And I can't remember who it was on day one that was talking about, like, what if you have different niches? Do you guys remember who that was? I forgot. Someone was asking about that. I do have different niches because I teach business coaching and I teach numerology. So, how do I handle that? Is I give each quarter of the year a job. And I've decided to, well, or however you decide to split up the year. And I've decided to make like the spring business focused, the fall business focused, and I do a push for numerology in the summer, which is where I do my launch for my program. And then I'll also do an annual forecast in December for numerology just because I love doing that. So, and I get a ton of numerology readings in January typically. So that kind of is how I plan my accessible offers. Now, when I spend a year doing that and I've got like, here's the entry point, here's the accessible offer, or here's the decision point or whatever. If I've got a year where I've been tracking that and I've got it kind of calendared out and I've been tracking it month by month, keeping track of these stats like we talked about here, at the end of the year, I can look at it and be like, okay, conversion rate is higher in this program and lower in this program. Do I want to change something, scrap it, invest more energy into the one that converts more highly? Like, what do I want to do? And those are all important questions to ask. Not that the answer needs to be 100% determined on, you know, is it profitable? Like, yes, ask that question, but also ask, are these clients I like to work with? Is this a delivery I like to do? Like, do I like this? Is my energy behind this thing? Right? Because we can be good at stuff that we don't love doing. Let's not spend too much time in that department if we don't have to. Um, and really learning how to effectively evaluate a launch is key. And I do teach that in my group mentorship program. I mean, I teach all of this. I teach how to set up your stage ones, set up your stage twos, find how to actually script out a masterclass so that it does convert, because people do this all the time, which I think is it's heartbreaking because it's so much work. They put an incredible masterclass together, they promote the heck out of it, they get a good number of enrollments, but it doesn't actually position effectively, so they don't sell anything out of it, or they sell a low number of things. And it's like, if you set your masterclass up right, you can be generous and you can provide so much information and be so supportive and so connected to your clients, and you can actually convert and make money on the back end, which is the goal, right? If you're not making money in your business, that's not helpful to you or to your clients, because then you're not sustainable, right? And so money is the engine that keeps your business functioning. So that's the goal there. But the more you kind of keep track of all these bits and pieces, the easier it is to sort of evaluate, how do you want things to unfold. And then, right, workshop scripts, sales call scripts for sure, because it's the same thing. You can have a discovery call that goes nowhere, and you can have a discovery call that positions. Um, And then stage 3 is all about what actually makes you profit. Okay. And so this is where we can also iron out your methodology, because if you remember the other day, I was talking about assessments. When you get clear on, your methodology, you can use that methodology to create an assessment tool. And that assessment tool can be used in your workshops as well as in your one-on-ones to position a sale. So with the conversation I had this morning with the client on the discovery call, we actually went through, this is kind of my assessment tool. We went through this and we walked through it together of like, what strategies do they have? What strategies do they want? What strategies are working? What strategies aren't? What's profitable? What isn't? And then I could make recommendations to them based on what I saw from their assessment. And that's where you can position things very strongly. But you really need to have your methodology dialed in to create an effective assessment tool. Where am I? Not here. Here I am. Okay. So on both stage 2 and stage 3, I would invite you to write in a scale of 1 to 10 how well these things are working for you. And then finally, the last step to all of this is, are you surrounded by the right people? I cannot understate this, especially in times that are, have a high degree of uncertainty. Who are your people? Who are the people who have your back? Who are the people that encourage you in times of struggle and stress? Because that will happen. And people who aren't business owners, they don't understand the decisions that you have to make. People who are like employees, the mindset and the energy they have around how and what they do in their business is so very different from us. So you cannot take advice from people who aren't where you want to be. Do you know what I mean? Have you ever heard that saying before? Like, don't take advice from someone unless you think the future they have is what you want, or the experience they have right now is what you want. Because it's like, if like my dad, really smart man, he's a teacher and he's been a teacher his entire life. I mean, he's retired now, but he taught high school. So even though he might actually in theory know lots about entrepreneurship because he taught different classes on, accounting and different things like that, he's not currently running a business. So he does not understand the pressures and the stresses and the decisions. So to get his advice on something I'm doing as a business owner versus to get another business owner's advice is completely different, right? And I think we need to have two kinds of people in our corner. Number one, we need to have colleagues and peers. We need to have other people who are in it with us, beside us, in it. They get where you're at. They're in it too. And then number two, we want to have teachers, mentors, and guides, people who have walked the path and they might be a step or two ahead of us, or they figured something out that we are still trying to figure out. And I really do feel, when I think about mentors and guides, like you want credible and relatable. You do not want to hire a mentor and a guide who you're like, they look good on paper, but I can't connect with them, or I don't relate to them because they live a completely different lifestyle than me or whatever. You need credible in terms of like they have results they can speak to, but relatable as in like I believe these results would also work for me, right? We're not so far out of touch that I feel completely disconnected. Um yeah. And that kind of sums up basically what I wanted to talk about today. Um, for those of you listening, whether you're live or on the replay, I am opening the doors for my mentorship in February, and it is a hybrid. I think I mentioned this before. We kick off the mentorship with a one-on-one session with me and you, where I help you map out a business plan. And the business plan is key because it becomes that like living document that we're going to implement together over the next 6 months. So in the first session, we will look at your experience, your history, your offers, what you already have in place and where the gaps are. So what you need to build. We'll also look at your numerology if you want me to get a better sense of what types of business models work for you, what types of offers work for you, and a bit more information about who is your ideal client and how can you more effectively connect with them through that kind of like energetic niching part that we talked a little bit about on day one. And then after that, we start meeting together as a group. And the groups are honestly like my favorite thing ever. The relationships really get built in a really strong way. But I'm going to share this link with you guys as to what it is. I call it the Abundant Business Mentorship. It's a 6-month program. I've got some testimonials of different clients who've worked through it. And the thing I can say about this type of model is it makes sense if you're service-based. And it makes sense if you have a generous heart, as in you really want to support people and you want to make a difference for people, because it does have things like trainings and classes that allow you to give generously for free, but also allows you to feel financially supported. And that's the piece that I think so many, generous hearted business owners are missing is like their own financial structure, support, and stability. The more stable I am, the more I can support my clients. If I'm unstable, I'm actually not that helpful to anybody, right? Least of all my children, my clients, and myself. So this is a bit of the model that we walked through. We create your customized business plan. We map out what that's actually going to look like with your vision. And then we start to develop the client pathway. So this is where we put into action stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. So like with the current cohort I'm with right now, they're all working on their masterclass script. And they can all send me their masterclass script. I will comb through it for them and help them make sure that whatever they're teaching in their masterclass is actually going to effectively position the thing they want to sell. Okay. And so we built the lead magnet. I taught them how to create the email sequences and funnels following the lead magnet and help them use messaging and positioning in such a way that compels action from your client. This is the whole idea of the decision point. So remember when we were talking about this spreadsheet on day 1, I talked to you guys about having your brand thesis. This takes time to craft. Your brand thesis is the best way to blank is to blank. This takes time to craft, but when you get this crafted well, it's honestly the thing that will support you to deliver social media content, email marketing content, masterclass content that positions a sale. right? If you have a strong brand thesis, everything will be compelling people to be guided towards the action taking that they need to take. Okay. And so this magnetic messaging map, we iron this out. I think it's on month 2 where we get this really, really solid so that everything you build, especially your lead magnet and your master classes, are all built on this foundation. And this foundation is what is the compelling into a sale. So, yeah, right now we're working on the masterclass. Next month, February, I'm going to be teaching them how to build sales scripts around discovery calls or consults or things like that so that they can work through the assessment to a sale strategy. Okay, so that's what we'll be doing. And I'll also be teaching them by the time March comes around as to like properly assess, how do you properly assess the success of anything? And it's funny, but like in knowing how to evaluate, you learn how to improve. If you know how to judge if something's like quote unquote good or bad, you also know what to do to improve it. And this is the thing that I also think as entrepreneurs, we really need to take to heart. There is no such thing as one and done. You will not build a funnel, turn it on, and walk away. That will never happen. I hate to burst the bubble. There's always going to be tweaks and adjustments and improvements. There's always going to be things in the market that are shifting somewhat. And it's part of the fun of the game of it to figure out, like, oh, could I convert higher? Would a different topic be stronger? How could I improve the hook? How could I increase the conversion of the masterclass? What content could I teach? What assessment could I deliver? What offer could I make? Where you can continuously, tweak and adjust your business to be exactly what you want it to be. So yeah, that's that. I teach this training obviously in a group mentorship program. As I mentioned, it's $3,000 for a 6-month mentorship, or you can do $500 a month as well. And it's 3 classes a month. And we also have a WhatsApp chat where you can come and ask me questions, chat with the other ladies in the group, and send me stuff if you want me to review it. I'm always happy to review people's like copy and landing pages and things like that. Um, and if you prefer to do one-on-one, that's an option as well. And we can chat privately about what the rates are for that. But typically the rates would be about $3,000 for a 3-month container, depending on kind of what you need. So yeah, that kind of sums up what we've got going on. If you are on the replay, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I would love to hear what your takeaways are, what landed, what stuck with you. Send me a note, and definitely make sure to book in a one-on-one strategy call with me so we can map out your 3-stage model for you based on your business. No pressure. But maybe there's some little tweaks and adjustments we can make to help you. And of course, if you want support, if that resonates, I'd love to support you. Just reach out and we can talk about what that could look like. And yeah, I hope to see some of you guys in the next cohort. It's going to be great. I think this is my 5th or 6th cohort since last year, and they've been killing it, which is so fun to see. So I look forward to connecting with you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.